Hello, and welcome to the year-end wrap-up from Three Takes on AI. Join us to hear our takes, Mike's, Campbell's, and my own, about the important AI topics of the year and insight into next, 2026. For more information on previous recordings, go to threetakesonai.com.
Howdy. Welcome to the end of the year and our fourth podcast for Three Takes on AI. Campbell, Mike, and I are going to spend the next 15 to 20 minutes to tell you what we think are some of the top hot topics or wrap-ups of AI in 2025, and we look forward to sharing more with you in the year to come. And I've decided to kick it off because I've shared some of my ideas, and I hear Campbell and Mike have an opinion or two about them. So we'll go ahead and do that. I did a top four. My first one, I think one of the greatest changes for me this year was AI finding memory, and in particular ChatGPT. I had like 12 custom GPTs and different projects, and it's much nicer to go to ChatGPT and say, do you remember we're doing a podcast and I need to write an email and have it remember what I'm doing and be able to track against it. And I think that's true both at the enterprise and the SMB space, where companies now, AI has a memory that's part of the orchestration, and it's a lot easier to think about it in those terms and make it easier to be productive and accurate. And I think it also, I imagine, impacts governance. It makes it much easier to govern a little bit, if you will, to have it stay on the project at hand. One of the things I'm learning even more lately is to ask it to be critical, because sometimes it wants to be too nice. And I know I like the positive comments, but then I wonder with my heritage whether that was accurate or not. So I have to go look at that. The second thing on my list is Anthropic. If you looked back a year or two ago, many of the companies, including OpenAI, were asking for sovereign governments and globe to do some regulation and set up the path, if you will, for AI governance and what are some of the right things to do. I think Canada's doing a good job. I think California has stepped in. Europe, Asia. I know there's some new laws coming out of India. But I've seen a lot of these companies, these leading companies, especially in the USA, backtrack from that. And that is, they want to have free reign, if you will, I think, on how AI is deployed. They know best. And what I really admire with Anthropic, even though they continue down the path of obviously delivering better Claudes, and they're, for many, believe have the lead on programming, their CEO, and they have done a really good job of still calling out the issues and concerns that they have with AI, and I admire that. The next one is a little bit of a surprise to me. Beginning of the year, we had Microsoft very tightly at OpenAI, at one point seeming like they might have taken over OpenAI, and Apple had the promise of Apple Intelligence, and I think their struggle to get what I consider original technology into market is an interesting to show how challenging it is on the broader scale to actually bring out something new and innovative that can make a difference. Now, Microsoft has done a great job incorporating OpenAI and other technology into Copilot, and I'm sure Apple is continuing to make progress, but it is an interesting, I think we can see the challenges in the head when we were talking in the last podcast about ROI and some of the vendor and metrics, and I think this shows what the challenges are going to be competitively. And then the last one for me, which may be a surprise to Mike and Campbell, is I think IBM has something going that is not being talked about in the market. And that is, they obviously are a leader in AI at the moment and quantum, but IBM really refreshed all of its server platforms this year. Both the mainframe has a new Telum 2 processor that has new and enhanced capabilities around AI, and Power did the same thing with Power 11. But what was missed and some got some good news around that. But IBM also announced something called Spire, which is a PCI card with huge capacity to handle inference and offloading or offboarding, if you will, AI technology. And one of the things that I was talking to someone yesterday who had actually visited Poughkeepsie, and they talked about it as getting that additional accuracy, if you will, that you can gain from that. And I also did an interview with one of the gentlemen who was in charge of that earlier in the year for Tech Channel, and he mentioned that the Watson capabilities will run everywhere, but at the microcode level, or they're doing some things with Spire to make it even run better. And I think that having both the business view that IBM will have through its servers and the innovation and some of the acquisitions is going to put IBM in a better position for AI, even I think than the market is recognizing, even though the stock is up a huge amount already this year. So those are my four. I could go on about the ChatGPT and Gemini battle going on day to day here, but that's not as exciting to me. Campbell, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks. And those are great areas because they hit on some key factors. I think that just a couple of comments before I sort of touch, I guess, on what I would reflect on my top four for 2025. The aspect about memory, I mean, I think it's a good direction, obviously, to go because as we see, LLMs are now probably starting to hit a bit of a ceiling. So in order to have, better functionality and competition in the marketplace, I think the memory aspect gives the models context. But when I look at it from an AI, the governance point of view, to your point, I see a larger security plane that has been opened up. It gets bigger. There's higher degrees of risk, memory insertion, memory manipulation. All of those factors play into it. So I think the direction that's going is good. I think it indicates fundamentally that there's a limitation to where LLMs can actually go. And I'll get back to that observation in a sec. Anthropic's comments about regulation is a really good one. I'm very pleased to hear that they are focusing on those key areas. Now, Anthropic obviously has been sued left, right, and center. So I think that they have probably become sensitized to regulation and risk for maybe some other reasons. But what that points to me is that Anthropic is taking a responsible approach to it. Whereas, and this is one of my key takeaways, is the regulation, deregulation that you had mentioned globally, where we see, yes, India, Singapore, I mean, Canada, yeah, we're working on, the advisory board at this point in time. But what's got me concerned is that the bulk of the American innovation or the big companies in AI are now existing in the US with key factors happening. You've got the US action plan that came out with the Trump administration. You've now just got the one rule being issued by the Trump administration that basically hobbles all state capability to regulate and sort of impact or put standards in place for AI practices. The view being is that now just opens up the market for all major AI vendors in the United States to sort of develop and push as fast as possible. But I truly think that they're going to start breaking things. And I'm starting to see, when you start seeing about breaches and AI manipulation reports coming in, there's more and more happening now, based on the fact that there's no regulation being put in place, and I'm concerned that the Trump administration's parameters around how they're going to regulate AI may be a bit too loose, and so I'm concerned that way. And then that obviously impacts U.S.-based companies utilizing U.S.-driven technologies coming into places like the EU market, or let's say the Indian market or Singapore, that they now will have to adapt and sort of address those requirements because, and this is now touches on one of the areas that I had, is that you have the EU AI Act in place. And, that's been really a good indication across 2025. Yes, they've had to backtrack a little bit, again, due to pressure of some of the major players. But I think that the EU AI Act, as it is in place now, is a good indicator of where we should be going. And it still fosters innovation. I wrote recently how the AI industry should learn from the F1 Formula One, that the F1, is highly regulated, highly standardized, but extremely competitive and innovative. So, we should be able to compete in that space. I think another key factor for 2025 was the development of MCP and open standards for agentic AI capabilities. So what that does is it sort of standardizes a sort of an open approach that all major vendors are rallying around, that allows organizations to deploy and utilize agentic AI in a more meaningful way. And the other interesting thing that I see in 2025, now coming to the end of 2025, is that it was extremely competitive at the beginning with the models, the retail models like ChatGPT, et cetera, Claude. But what you're seeing are the benchmarks are getting closer and closer and closer. So again, it's proof that even though ChatGPT 5.2 and Gemini from Google, all the benchmarks are now coming down about the same. And so we're starting to see not a commoditization, but we're starting to see things flatten out from capability. So that will be, to your point, Brian, about the memory. You'll see additional capabilities being wrapped around the models going into 2026. Anyway, that's sort of my quick take on your observations as well as some of my thoughts.
I think one of the things with Anthropic is because they are European based. And I think we've seen in the internet era, with GDPR and other regulations, that Europe does a better job. And hopefully these companies that want to play in Europe will have to behave as they learned to do in the internet era. Mike, your turn.
Yay. I appreciate the points of view. I'm going to kind of straddle 25 and 26. In the first, Brian, on your comment about AI being nice and AI having memory, I do think that was a very big part of 2025 is, actually seeing, and this goes with my second point, like seeing people using AI as a tool, but not necessarily understanding that it is an agreeable tool. It doesn't say, yeah, I'm like, that's an interesting idea, but here's the 3 reasons it's not going to work. Because it lacks experience and it lacks context. So I think people still need to really learn and understand, internalize that. And eventually maybe AI does catch up, but for now it's fairly one-dimensional that way. The other is, and it's evidence, I'm listening to you guys and I mean it in the nicest way. We have a very North America centric view of AI. And it is being developed and used in other places in the world, in some cases and in some ways, if not today, but in the future, in very nefarious and dangerous ways. And I don't know that the masses are prepared for that or understand it, because I do think that they think about the way they use it, not what can happen. And that remains, I'm very bullish on AI, but that remains a chief concern for me, is that we don't know, and there is no world standard. There are no standards really on the use of AI, and that's bad. So that's the first point. Second point is that I find really interesting, and we mentioned some of the names today, is the amount of investment being made by the largest tech corporations. I mean, well, Oracle just got hammered this week. Their stock lost 10, 11% of value, $100 billion, because of their AI investment. But they're not pulling back. So you've got IBM, Google, Oracle, HP. Yeah, I'll still call them the startups of Anthropic, OpenAI. But you have major tech corporations dumping tens of billions of dollars into this, which is both good and bad, right? Because if they're wrong, or they decide there is not enough here economically, then they have to start pulling those investments back. And that has a massive impact on the economy. And the economy is already not great. regardless of what they want us to believe. And I was trying to think of a time in tech where we saw large corporations like this unanimously jumping onto or into tech and controlling it. So, and maybe that's, maybe these large corporations do have the worldview that we don't have, and they're trying to protect us. I don't know. I haven't seen in my lifetime an experience where large corporations are trying to protect people, but maybe this time it's different. The third, and this is the last two things really come down to me personally and my kind of where I see 25, 26. The biggest thing for me is both not just myself, but people that I work with, my clients, my friends who are not in tech, using AI as an actual tool. And now trying to get people to understand, well, ChatGPT is only one tool. There are multiple tools. There's Gemini, there's Perplexity, there's DeepSeek, there are multiple tools like anything else. You cannot build a house with a hammer. Can't fix a car with a screwdriver. You need multiple tools to get the job done. So, seeing folks understand that, seeing AI getting embedded in technologies like Salesforce, like HubSpot, Workday, et cetera, is massive. I have a client who is embedding AI in their student information system. So it is going to become even more of a component of our day-to-day. And that brings me to the last point, which is AI is going to supplement or replace people. It already is. It's going to be far worse in 2026. And I don't believe that people are really, I think people are afraid, but I don't think they're really prepared for it. So I'm going to talk specifically really to the salespeople, because that's so central to my heart and what I care about. If AI and the economy go bad, people are going to lose their jobs. If AI really fulfills the promise, people are going to lose their jobs. So if you're in sales in particular, whatever level, how do you protect yourself? You need to learn the tools. Actually learn them, how to use them, how to make yourself better at your job. That means learning prompts, learning how to implement, learning how to do research, things that will make you, that will improve your performance, make you more valuable to the company. And if you do lose your job, make you valuable to somebody else. But this is not the time to sit back and wait to see what's going to happen to you. You have to take control of your situation. So that's, by the way, and I don't mean to sound like to be a downer here. I just think somebody needs to really step or more of us, I should say, because we're all doing it, but more of us need to step up and really tell people you've got to change the way you're operating. You have to.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. We've seen it before.
Well, I can never hear that enough, by the way. Thank you.
We've seen it before, but I don't think to the level that we're going to see it. I think in the internet era, if you look at e-commerce and Amazon and the impact it would have on, small to large to medium retailers and their employment, I think we've seen this before. I was talking earlier, I can't remember if it's New York Times or Washington Post, universities are having to respond to different ways to test and teach their students there was a comment in the article that one professor knew was it was ChatGPT because the student actually left the prompt and the response. So there's a lot of that going on, but I do agree with you. I think we're not totally prepared for what's coming. There's an advantage. I joke about it occasionally with having gray hair and been around this before, but I think for many people that are a bit younger than we are, the expectation that things will continue as they are is just not a good idea. And to your point, I took a class yesterday from Google on AI. I thought it was going to be really good. It turned out to be more, honestly, a promotion for AI, for Google in particular. But I think there's a lot of that coming. And I think 2026 will be an exciting time to continue doing what we're doing here. So my last comment is to wish everyone, I believe we'll publish this on the 30th. So I wish everyone a very happy, healthy, and prosperous new year. Take Mike's advice and make the year a prosperous one for you all, and wish you a happy new year. Campbell, Mike, any last thoughts?
Yeah, I think I would go on Mike's comment in that I wish everybody the happiest of holiday seasons, and that I think 2026 should be the year that everybody, to Mike's point, at least opens their minds and tries to learn more about what AI is and how large actually the entire space is, not just ChatGPT, but understand the technology, understand the risks of those technologies, and understand how it can make you more efficient and more effective, but without replacing you. And yeah, but always be curious and be ready to adapt, because I think 2026 is going to be a year of rapid change and rapid evolvement, positive and negative. But again, happy holidays, everybody.
Yeah, and I'll do the same. I'll wish everybody happy holidays and peace wherever you are listening to this or watching this. And then the other thing I'll say is get outside, go touch grass, go look at the sky, look at the stars, feel the breeze. We spend, all of us, way too much time inside at our desks in front of screens. And the best thing for your health is to get outside. So I hope everybody does that, regardless of where you are. Bundle up or put on your tank top and your flip flops and go. But yeah, there's it's still the best medicine that I know of. So
I agree with that. Thank you, gentlemen. It's been a great start of our podcast, and look forward to next year.
Thank you, guys.